Today on the podcast, we're talking about the Air Force pilot bonus and the update for 2025.
Welcome to the Military Money Manual Podcast, where every episode is all about achieving financial independence in the military faster than before. We believe personal finance shouldn't be boring or intimidating. Building wealth can be simple, and financial freedom is the ultimate financial goal. Now, here's your hosts, Spencer and Jamie.
Hey everyone, welcome back. First episode of the Military Money Manual Podcast we're recording in 2025. Wow, I'm going to mess that up, Jamie, on my checks. I'm still going to write 2024. So Jamie, talk to me. Aviation bonus 2025 for the Air Force. What's going on? What's the update?
This is really good news for Air Force officers that are rated officers. So we're going to talk pilot bonus. There's also a bonus for RPA pilots and combat systems operators, among other, and air battle managers. So it's really all of aviation bonus rated officers in general. And if you're not a rated officer or you're not a pilot, excuse me in advance for saying pilot bonus a lot, there'll be a little bit of stuff that you can get for bonus things and taxes and windfalls and how to handle that. But this is really targeted for pilot bonus. So if you're not a pilot, you're not eligible for the bonus, you don't supervise people or eligible for the bonus, or you don't intend to even have a consideration for it one day, you might just want to skip this episode and go back to one of our other amazing episodes. We have, 150 episodes out there that are pretty good. This one just might not be for you. But in November of 2024, the Air Force released their fiscal year 2025 aviation bonus offerings. And it's pretty cool because they split it into a demo program and a legacy program. And so depending on how close you are to the end of your active duty service commitment from your undergraduate flying training, UPT, undergraduate navigation training, whatever your case may be, you may be eligible for an increased bonus, which is kind of neat and kind of new. The last pilot bonus podcast was in 2022. We did that, and that was episode number 34. Number 34, we talked about the 2022 pilot bonus, and I went through some of my story as well. And then in episode 32, we talked about just general ideas for how to handle a bonus or a windfall when you get a large chunk of money coming in.
Yeah, and I think for the windfall, Jamie, you can go, like you said, episode 32 if you want to deep dive into it. But just follow the flow chart. There's lots of flow charts out there, kind of the priority of what you want to do if you have some extra money coming in. But this is a great time. If you're still paying off student loans and you're not going to qualify for the public service loan forgiveness program, this is perfect time in your career to wipe, or like if you've got a spouse that has student loans, this is a perfect time to wipe those out. If you don't have an emergency fund fully funded, this is the time to do that. If you're investing for financial independence, you might want to throw some of the money into a Roth IRA, and just watch out. Maybe your income's gone up a little bit because of the bonus, so you might have to do a backdoor Roth IRA. If you got kids, maybe a 529 funding that. If you're charitably minded, a donor advised fund, this might be a good time to use that. DAFFY is one, DAFFY, that we've both used, and we like supporting the causes that are near and dear to our heart through that donor advised fund. And maybe you got a major purchase. So maybe you're coming up on a PCS and you're looking to purchase a home. Not something we always advise on active duty, but in the right time and place, it can be a good decision depending on your situation. Maybe if you need to replace a car, you've been driving the same car since UPT, this is a good time to think about upgrading that and using some of the bonus for that. But it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can kind of split your bonus, maybe use a little bit for debt repayment, get ahead on that. Take the family on a vacation, spend something on your partner, spend something on your kids, and maybe hold back 10% for yourself and, buy that FPV drone or that windsurfing class that you've been looking to get. Whatever it is, it can be a great time to kind of celebrate the hard work and achievements that you've had over your career, and you can really put the money to work for bettering your life and bettering the lives of those around you.
So Spencer, let's get into the specifics of this year's pilot bonus. I mentioned already there's a legacy program and a demo program. So first I'll explain the difference. Legacy is when your initial undergraduate pilot training or undergraduate flying training contract is expiring in fiscal year 2025. And on the article on the website, if you Google search Air Force pilot bonus, it should be the number one result there, take you to militarymoneymanual.com. And on that article, I give specifics and more numbers that are a little bit harder to visualize on the podcast. But say 10 years ago, you started your pilot training, and now 10 years now, your commitment's coming up. So in fiscal year 2025, you're eligible for the legacy bonus. The demo bonus is what Congress authorized a couple years ago in the NDAA, which allows the Air Force to experiment with targeting people whose contract expires a couple years in the future. So maybe you only graduated from pilot training 7 or 8 years ago. So you're still under contract, but you'll get more of a bonus if you sign now under the demo program instead of waiting for your full commitment to be up and you to be basically a free agent, and then you would be under the legacy program. So again, legacy program, initial pilot training commitment ends fiscal year 2025. The demo program is for people a couple years out from their pilot training commitment expiring. And then in a second, I'll talk about the numbers here, but it's important to understand which chart you're on. There's a couple different charts in the PSDM on MyFSS. There's a couple different tiers depending on your career field and the type of pilot you are. For example, tier 1 is 11F, 11B, 11S, 11M. So basically everyone except for certain types of 11Rs are in tier 1 for the pilots, and then 11Rs, which is like, it says all but RDMTEH are tier 2 C2 ISR pilots. I don't even know what that means, but maybe someone that is tier 2 would know what that means.
That's a lot of acronyms.
Let's jump in and look at the legacy bonus first with very specific numbers for fiscal year 2025. Again, all this is in the PSDM on MyFSS and is publicly available. It's authorized by Congress. There's no secrets here. And it's important to remember that while these amounts may seem like they're not enough to compete with airline pay or whatever you would get on the outside, it's not intended to do that. It's intended to bring a little bit of stability to the personnel system so they know how many people for each year group are going to be around in the future for that, upcoming school boards or command or whatever else is in the future, even flying jobs in the squadron. When they don't have people under contract, it's hard for them to know how many people are going to be around.
So Jamie, if let's say that I'm a pilot, I graduated UPT in 2015. So I'm coming up on the end of my 10-year active duty service commitment in fiscal year 25. So I'll be eligible for the legacy program, right?
Correct.
Okay. If I commit to another 3 to 4 years, the United States Air Force is going to pay me $20,000 per year, right?
Correct. For 3 to 4 years, you can get $20,000 for most types of pilots. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. For the tier 1. Okay. So, which is not C2 ISR, which are 11Rs. Yeah. Okay. And then, so it's $20,000 if I'm 3 to 4 years, 5 to 7 years, $27,500, and then 8 to 12 years, $35,000. So it ranges depending on how long I sign up for. It's ranging between $20,000 a year and $35,000 a year. And this is if my ADSC is expiring this fiscal year, which is the traditional, and they're calling it the legacy aviation bonus program, right?
Yeah, exactly. So those numbers, again, as little as $20,000 a year for 3 years could be a $60,000 bonus, all the way to 12-year contract at $35,000 a year, which would be a contract gain of $420,000 for you.
Wow, that's nice. And then can you take any of that up front?
So with the legacy this year, you cannot take any upfront lump sum according to the PSDM. You can in the demo program, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Okay, so I think I got the legacy system. This is the classic aviation bonus. My commitment is up. I'm about to be a free agent, and if I just do kind of a week commit, 3 to 4 years, $20,000 a year. If I go all the way up to $420,000, that's 12 years at $35,000 a year. Okay, so that's a legacy system. Now talk to me about the demo program. So I liked how you described it. So this is basically people whose ADSC is expiring either next fiscal year, so 26, or even the following, so 27. So these are, I want to say kids, but these are pilots who have only been graduated from their UPT program. Like, I mean, in the 27 program, they graduated 8 years ago. And now they're basically being offered contracts to commit before they even become free agents, and then extend their ADSC in 3 to 4 years, 5 to 7 years, or 8 to 12 year blocks, right?
Yeah, so this one gets a little more confusing, and it probably, full disclosure, will be hard to grasp on a podcast. So really going to push you to look at the article on militarymoneymanual.com. But in general, there's one chart for those who pilot training commitment expires in FY26, and there's another for FY27, like you said, under the demo program. Some of these for FY26, we'll start there. You can do 4 years, you can do 5 to 7 years, you can do 8 to 12, and that's just for the financial incentive. But what's interesting about the demo program is they also have a base of preference where you can list where you want to go or say, I don't want to go somewhere specifically. And that comes with a 4-year ADSC payback as well. Or you can do the financial incentive, or what they call the demonstration program monetary incentive, and the demonstration program assignment of preference. So you can do money, assignment of preference, or money and assignment of preference. And it's quite complicated when you look at the chart. But it could be up to $45,000 a year with $100,000 upfront for an 8 to 12 year bonus. And that begins the day after your undergraduate flying training ADSC begins, that your payback, your ADSC payback begins after your pilot training commitment ends.
Nice. So, and that's for if you're expiring in fiscal year 26. But if you're expiring in fiscal year 27, I think this is pretty crazy. They're offering up to $50,000 a year if you commit 8 to 12 years with a $200K upfront option. And I assume that's paid the day that your 10-year ADSC expires. Is that how that works if you commit 2 years ahead?
So there are some specific rules in the PSDM to decide your eligibility date. In general, it's going to be the date that you applied for it in MyFSS, which today, let's say you go in and do the application today, you start the application. As soon as you hit I think it's a generate contract is what the button is. That's the day that locks in the date that you tried to start the bonus, or the date that you're eligible. So let's say that you graduated from pilot training on May 1st of 2015. So your commitment doesn't end till May 1st of 2025. You can go ahead and apply now, but you won't be eligible for they won't actually kick in until your 10-year anniversary and the ADSC ends. There's one other one. If you apply after your ADSC is up, then it starts basically that day. So there's some nuances in there that are explained in the article further.
So, I mean, this stuff is pretty complicated this year, Jamie, for the Air Force pilot bonus. It's safe to say that, even we have questions, having dug through the PDSM and even having literally written the #1 Google ranked article on this. So don't be afraid if you're eligible for some of these programs to ping your commander or your supervisor or your FSS unit and your personnelists and make them explain exactly when you're going to get paid and how it all works. And again, a lot of these things are probably in the PDSM, so don't be afraid to really dig through there and the old Control F, search it, or even better, drop it into AI, ChatGPT or Claude, and ask them questions about it. That's what we should do.
I think the whole point of this demonstration program, which is by law targeting these 2-year groups, is to have that predictability of people, give them options, and they have a higher amount. So like you mentioned, $50,000 is available for someone whose ADSC expires in fiscal year 27, $45,000 a year for FY26, and the legacy program caps out at $35,000 a year for the longest bonus. So there's a lot of goodness here, but you have to make that decision a little bit early. It could be tough for someone that's only 10 years into their military career and they haven't tasted freedom basically their entire adult life to know. But some people do know, or some people have a very strong inkling that they're going to be sticking around. So a 4-year commitment is not bad, especially if you're considering going to something like intermediate development education in residence. If you're going to accept another PCS, it might have a 2 or 3 year commitment with it. So there's a lot of options. There's a lot of things to dig into in the PSDM, like Spencer said.
And if you're under BRS, Blended Retirement System, you can take the continuation pay bonus simultaneously if it's offered at your year group. So we get a lot of questions from pilots who are under BRS and they're thinking about taking the aviation bonus. And this is a great time to just stack up those bonuses, serve all the ADSCs concurrently. And then, if you only take the 3 or 4 year one, you still are giving yourself options where in a couple of years, you'll have the choice, hey, do I want to keep doing the active duty thing, or do I want to try the Guard or Reserves, or am I done with this whole thing and I want to go promote to civilian?
Just a quick note from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back to the show. Hey, Spencer, I've heard about this free Amex Platinum card for military service members. Where can I go to learn more about this?
Great question, Jamie. I've got the Ultimate Military Credit Cards course at militarymoneymanual.com/UMC3. It's a 100% free email-based course, and I explain exactly how to verify your eligibility for credit card annual fee waivers with the Military Lending Act, or MLA, and the Service Members Civil Relief Act, or SCRA. The Ultimate Military Credit Cards course is a beginner's guide to travel hacking and opening up your first annual fee-waived credit card while you or your spouse serves in the U.S. military. There's no spam, no fluff. The only emails you'll get from me are related to military credit cards. You can unsubscribe at any time, and there's zero cost to you to sign up. You can sign up right now for free at militarymoneymanual.com/UMC3. Again, militarymoneymanual.com/uniform Mike Charlie 3.
And now back to the show. There's one other unique thing in this year's bonus. Under the legacy program, they have what they call an experience bonus, and they label it as tier 4, 5, and 6 of the legacy program. So this is for people whose ADSC expired a year or two or a couple years ago. Say that you're now 11, 12 years from graduating pilot training and you're not under a contract, or maybe you took a 3-year contract and now that contract is done, or you never took one, something like that. You can do $20,000, $27,500, or $35,000 a year for your contract for pilots, and others have a slightly reduced amount. But getting $20,000 to sign another 3 to 4 years, say you're 16 or 17 years in and you're trending towards military retirement and serving 20 active duty years, that might be something to definitely look at for those that could have fall under the experience bonus.
Jamie, one of the questions we always get about this is the bonus going to kick me into a higher tax bracket. And I want to refer people to episode 152, where we talked about the U.S. tax code and how it's a progressive system. So that means that your marginal dollar, so the last dollar you earn, might be in a higher bracket than you were earning previously. But that doesn't mean that all of your dollars have now moved up into that bracket. So most married filing jointly pilots are going to be in between the 12 to 22% tax bracket, depending on how much of their income is tax-free, whether they've deployed to a combat zone tax exclusion area, CZTE. It might, depending, if you take the full $200,000 up front, if you're in the demo program with a ADSC expiring in fiscal year 27, you might be pushed into the 24% bracket, but the 32% bracket starts at $394,000 for 2025. So it'd be pretty difficult to get pushed into that bracket unless you're dual income pilots or doctors and you're taking lots of bonuses. That might make sense. Then you want to spread the bonus out over a couple of years, but it's probably not relevant for everyone. It's probably, I would lean towards, if most of the bonus is going to be tax in the 12 to 22% bracket, even the 24% bracket, take as much as you can up front, because then you can get it to work for you and you can get invested. And $1 today is worth, we can run the numbers, Jamie, but over 12 years, $50,000 is going to decay to inflation, 3% a year. And it's not going to be worth $50,000 anymore after 12 years.
Yeah, I think inflation is a big point. The other one that I like to recommend to people is thinking about, if you invest it, say you invested in S&P 500 right now, do you think in the next 5 years that might go up 22% total? The average 10% a year, I think, and that's what I did. I took upfront, and you're going to be subject to 22% tax withholding, but that doesn't mean that's going to be your final tax rate when it all settles out at the next April when you file your taxes. So initially they're going to withhold 22%, but what you're going to see, especially if you do lump sum, you're going to get a fat check, or it might even be split up into 2 deposits depending on how big it is, within a couple weeks of your contract effective date or your date of eligibility. And then every year on that anniversary, you should get the remainder of that year's payment, or the total amount minus the upfront that you had divided by the number of years remaining. So taxes are an important consideration, but are not a showstopper. Like, you shouldn't be so afraid of paying taxes this year that you either don't take it if you want to, or are afraid to take the lump sum when it's offered to you. Because like you said, Spencer, it's the best way to put it to work for you. And there's some things you can do, like donate some of it to a donor advised fund or charity, maybe switch that year to traditional TSP instead of your Roth. Normally we're very pro Roth, but at a high income year, if you have an extra $200,000 coming in, that might be something to consider.
Yeah, and I just ran the numbers real quick, Jamie. At 3% inflation, $50,000 paid in 2025 would be worth $35,000 in 2037. Wow, that's a long time from now. So I think it's definitely one of those things that you should be thinking about, and don't let the tax tail wag the dog. Talk to a CPA, or go to, hellonectarine.com. You can fee-only financial advice on there. Or, other resources would be the Military
Tax Experts Alliance.
That's right. The Military Tax Experts Alliance. Thanks, Jamie. So this is a great time to talk to a CPA for an hour, pay $200, $300. Maybe even have them do your taxes that year. I think it's always a great time to have a CPA do your taxes in a high earning year. Just right off if you're I used to be a DIY type, I'd just run it through Mil Tax. It's free. You can still run through Mil Tax yourself, but I think it's, especially with taxes, like you're not doing taxes your full-time job. You're flying an airplane. So let someone who's an expert in taxes do your taxes and pay a couple $100 or maybe $1,000 and have them do it, especially if you're in a high earning year.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential to mess it up. This year is probably one where I paid someone to do my taxes, for example. The other thing that comes up with taxes a lot is, what if I'm deployed in a tax-free zone? And it really isn't going to move the needle at all. A very small portion of your first installment may be tax-free, and you need to sign your bonus contract in a month where you receive CZTE or tax-free pay. As always, your tax-free benefits each month are limited to the amount of the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force's base pay. So if you're an 04 and you only have a couple $100 between your base pay and the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force base pay, that's the amount that's going to be tax-free. So it might be $1,000 that's tax-free, but it's not going to be much. Definitely don't volunteer for a deployment or go way out of your way to delay taking the bonus until you're deployed or anything like that.
Yeah, the meme of taking bonuses when you're deployed is extremely relevant on the enlisted side, because all enlisted pay earned in a CZTE is tax-free. If you're enlisted and you're listening to this, I don't know why, but welcome. And if you're thinking about taking a bonus, do it in a combat zone if you have the chance. And then your entire bonus should be tax-free. On the officer side, we have officers get a lot of benefits, no complaining, no griping here. But that is one of the disadvantages of an officer. Is, like Jamie said, your tax-free monthly allowance is only up to the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force pay. So once you start hitting late major, and you're making like over 8 or 9, maybe 10 grand of base pay, you're going to start seeing taxes still taken out when you're in a combat zone, tax exclusion area, CZT area. Anything else that we want to address on the aviation bonus, Jamie?
I just want to reiterate that, we have that article in detail, Air Force Pilot Bonus 2025 Aviation Bonus Program on the militarymoneymanual.com, and our past podcast episode 32 and 34 that we mentioned. In reality, this money is not going to be the thing that makes a decision for you, but it is a factor. And we all want to be fairly compensated for what we're being asked to do and the amount of work and risk and responsibility we take on as pilots, as aircraft commanders, as flight leads, four-shift flight leads, as flight examiners, all these things that they ask us to do throughout our career. And while it can't compete with the airlines directly, it is an important data point for you to look at as you're making your consideration whether to stay in or not. And now that it could be 1 or 2 years before your commitment's up, it really is worth looking at the numbers, seeing what your family situation is like. I can't see almost any situation where it makes sense to have a 4-year commitment just for base of preference. But maybe if there's like a really nasty, ex-boyfriend in the town and you really didn't want to go to, McDill or something like that, then it'd be worth a 4-year ADSC. But I think money speaks and it's going to move the needle a little bit. I'm curious to see after a couple of years of the demo program, what we get as far as how many people are signing up for the bonus 1 to 2 years before their ADSC expires from pilot training. It's a big decision though, so don't take it lightly. Look at the math, but it's not just about the money.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Military Money Manual podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This helps others find the show, and we really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
The views and opinions presented here are those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent the views of the DoD or its components. Reference to any commercial products or services does not constitute DoD endorsement of those products or services.